I have been working on this. We've been working on this presentation a long time. When I taught elementary, and I've taught every grade level, K through 12. And as a media specialist, I always did a unit on visual literacy every year. And uh, and I always looked for books or materials that would help me. And I found this wonderful book that I will be sharing with you today by Molly Bang. Molly Bang is also a great children's illustrator, and I used her work a lot in my work. And uh, so I did a presentation, and a volunteer happened to be sitting an adult while I was doing the presentation. And she said, "Would you come and do this to this club that as an adult?" And then I've done it several times since then. It just resonates with everybody because it's how to look at pictures. And we're starting off by looking at a beautiful picture. This artist is Dee Chroma, and if some of you just tuned in, she is going to be the featured artist in our gallery, the St. John's Cathedral Gallery, and you certainly want to come in the end of January, and you certainly want to come and take, not January the 25th. So let's begin. I want all of you to have, I always tell my children and my students, you need, in order to progress in life, you need to put things in your suitcase, all kinds of things. And usually it's for my college students right now, you need to put knowledge in there and attending class and et cetera, et cetera. But for us as artists, and not only artists, but for us as um, wanting to learn more about art and enjoy it and interpret it and be aware of it, we need to have a vocabulary. We need a vocabulary to kind of work with. Um, and I'm going to start packing your suitcase with art vocabulary for you to take a look at. And there are the elements of line, color, and we've already talked about some of these in um, previous discussions. Color, line, shape, size, and spatial arrangement are going to be some of the art elements. Now, artists have lots of different view on what the elements of art are and what the properties of art are. I'm just picking a few at a time to kind of get you interested and build items to go into your suitcase so that we'll go little bit by little bit. We're going to take a few elements this time. In our next discussion, we're going to talk about properties, design properties, which we're going to put in your suitcase as well. Uh, and today we're going to use the Picture This, How Pictures Work by Molly Bang, which we have copies at the bookstore to sell, by the way, if you like this book. And it's a great book. The book was published around 1991, and it's gone into its second publishing. And everyone, anybody that's an artist or talks about art or that is in the art field knows about this book. People that work with visual literacy know about this book because it's teaching people how to take a visual text and shows them through that how a picture works. Today, we're going to look at this particular picture that Molly Bang has used to express how pictures work, and she's utilized the story of Little Red Riding Hood. There are no right and wrong answers, but you may be surprised at how many common understandings of line, color, shape, and space emerge when you learn how to make visual images make meaning. These common understandings are readings are really what makes pictures work. Now, there's two key elements in making a picture work. One is context, and one is a composition or composable elements. Context, okay, what does context refer to? It refers to all outside influences on the text, the visual text that you're looking, things that impact your thoughts and your feelings, about what you're looking at or what your text that can give you clues so you can analyze a picture or a text. For example, if you see Jim Carrey in a movie, I bet you that you'll automatically think this is a comedy. And this is because of the outside, of an outside influence. We know what? We know that he has made other comedy movies. So guess what? We expect that. Composition now is somewhat the opposite of context. Whereas context looks just exclusively outside the text, composition looks exclusively at the text itself. What is it like? What's that visual text like? How are the parts put together? These are all composition questions. Some of the elements of a compositional elements that we find in visual text are the ones that we're going to look at and talk about today, which I have already started to put in your suitcase, by the way. Their color and their line, their size, shape, and spatial arrangement. So look at this picture. With this picture, Bang is really telling us the story of Little Red Riding Hood if you look at it. And does it work? How does the composition and the compositional elements help it succeed? How does the composition, the pulling it together, the putting it together, and then utilizing these elements of color, size, shape, and spatial arrangement and line, how does this help it succeed to tell a story? And we're going to look at that as soon as I get my notes together. So we see shapes and contexts, and our reaction to them depend on a large part. This is just a triangle, a red triangle, right? Red triangle. If this were an illustration about a story about the ocean, we possibly could read that red triangle as a sail, perhaps a sailboat, a shark's fin, a volcanic island rising from the sea, a red buoy perhaps, or the bow of a sinking ship even. We feel very differently about the triangle if we see it as a sailboat, don't we? Than we do if we see it as a shark's fin. But Molly Bang said in her book, she says, when she started to think about representing Little Red Riding Hood, she, as a little red triangle, she asked herself, do I feel anything about this shape or for it? The figure is not exactly, it's not fraught with emotion, yet I know I felt things about it that I didn't feel for others. It isn't huggable because it has points. It makes me feel stable. Now, why does this make her feel stable? Because it has a flat, wide, horizontal base. It gives a sense of balance because it has three sides that are equal. Now, if it were sharper, it would feel nastier, wouldn't it? If you look at it and kind of imagine it being a little bit sharper. If it were flatter, it would just feel more immobile. And if it was an irregular triangle, it would feel kind of off balance. And also, what is it about this color? We call red a warm color, a bold and flashy. But it also, you can feel danger with red, passion. How can one color evoke such a range of conflicting feelings? But it does. So what is red? Red is blood. It is fire. Ah, all of those feelings that are evoked in me by red seem to be associated with two things that have been read and only read ever since humans have been around to see them. And could all of these emotions brought by red be a mixture of my feelings about blood and fire? And those are two things that have been read for is forever: blood and fire. Um, the feelings invoked to me by red seem to be associated with these two things that have been read and only. So far, yes. These then are feelings, right? We can have a feeling, even about this triangle. We can have a feeling about it because the color is now beginning to pull us in and give us that feeling. So I'm beginning to have feelings for this triangle. It's a medium size red triangle. It has stability. It has balance. It has a little prickliness. Oh, and alertness. Okay. Plus warmth, plus strength, plus vitality, plus boldness, and perhaps even, I don't know, a sense of danger. Now let's look at this triangle as a Little Red Riding Hood. The shape and color, of course, relate to her clothes, but I can have feelings about her as a red triangle. Can I have them and translate it to a person? Yep. That figure can suggest to me a character who is smart, warm, strong, stable, balanced, vital, and perhaps with a sense of danger. Now let's talk about our mother. If I was trying to picture her mother, okay, take a look at these two pictures. I could simply show her as the mother is a big red triangle. And it could be a bigger version than a Little Red Riding Hood. This could represent the mother and the daughter. Other than size, how motherly, though, does this big red triangle look? Now, what happens when you change the shape of the big red triangle? Okay, she's become a more important picture and object, and she's still overwhelming her daughter, uh, and she doesn't seem to be the main protagonist. In addition, the shape kind of implies a mother who is kind of maybe huggable and warm. How can I make her less overwhelming? Oh my goodness, I can change her color and make her a little bit more huggable. Uh, if I make her a pale color, then she and her daughter are more equal in the picture. Little Red Riding Hood still feels, perky and bold. The mother could just as easily been pale blue, or she could have been pale green. She could have been another color. But since purple has red in it, the mother and the daughter are related now by color as well, um, as they would have been if the mother had been pink or pale or blue. Now the basket. All right. Molly Bang chose baskets, the black in the basket, but she said it just worked. The black just worked, and it drew attention because it drew attention and it gave her the widest possible range of feeling. Chartreuse would have been a better complement to the red, she said, but it was too close to purple, so it wouldn't give you that intense feeling. Also, she said she felt like she really needed to add a dark color to show scary elements a little bit. And she wanted to keep this as simple as possible so she could keep track of what was going on. So now, so far, with these three colors, and we do have white in this picture as well, okay? We've got the blue, we've got the the purple, the black, and the red and the white. She has an emotional range, doesn't she? Just with that, just with those shapes and just with those colors, she has a wide emotional range that we are now joining with her. And so far, this really isn't, she's making this picture, but it's just not really moving or inspired picture that we've ever seen. But it has shown us some of the ways that shapes and colors affect us emotionally. It also lays a better, um, it also lays the better groundwork for an understanding of how to go about making the next picture of the woods. So Molly chose red, just a little review, the triangle. She chose that. The literal reason she chose it is that the protagonist, Little Red Riding Hood, the color makes sense. It also, a triangle is the shape of the hood and the cape she wears. Now, the figurative reason she chose this is that red represents danger. Red is an energetic color, the color of blood, life, and fire. All of these meanings now are going on at the same time, y'all. And they start out which ones to pay attention to. Context helps us do that. So we've seen some design ideas. Size has meaning, bigger for the mom. Shape has meaning, rounded shapes are softer and more motherly for the mother. And color has meaning, literally and figuratively, because of the reasons just stated. So she wanted to stay, when she started creating the wood, she wanted to stay as simple as possible. So first of all, she made the woods as a triangle. Both of them were long, they were pointed, they were individual triangles, and they were scattered all over the page. Then, she said, I'll change that. I'll make the triangles fatter, piled on top of each other, and we see them all at once. We see them as a forest of spruce or fir trees. But they're just too close to the shapes of Little Red Riding Hood, she said, and also kind of her mother. She didn't want to imply that the human beings were turning into trees or the trees into people. So, to avoid this confusion and also to get relief from all these triangles, she saw that there was another possibility for the woods, like this one. These are simply long vertical lines of varying lengths and widths, as you can see, which in the context of the story, now we're talking about the context of the story, represents what? Trunks are branchless tree trunks, because we can't see their tops. The trees seem very tall, and we are deep in the midst of the woods, as Little Red Riding Hood will have to be. The trees give us an illusion of going back in space. The sense of depth is accomplished by how Molly has arranged these tree trunks on the paper, so that the thinner they are and the higher up they are on the page, their bases are placed. And she said it was when she had made this much of a picture, she says, when I had set the stage, then I began to feel more involved. I think that's real important when she's setting the stage. So she, as the artist, is becoming more involved. It was time now for Little Red Riding Hood to make her entrance into the woods. And here she is. She's coming into the woods. This picture can easily be read as Little Red Riding Hood in the woods, okay? Especially since she's been connected with one of the trees, and she's kind of, as you look, she's kind of partly covered by it, isn't she? Right down here. So she's in these woods because she's covered by it. So Molly said as soon as she started playing with these shapes and the figure of Little Red Riding Hood in the woods, she noticed how much she entered the picture when she started putting Little Red Riding Hood, the triangles all around and putting them in front of the trees, behind the trees. She realized how much she was becoming a participant in the making of her picture. But she thought, the picture should be scarier than this. I mean, as these are the woods in which our heroine meets the wolf who is going to eat her up. She said that she needed to imply some threat in the environment. She needed to construct a scarier setup. And I've done this with high school kids. I've done folk tales and had them do these shapes and put them together. And I wish I had kept some of them because I mean they were well, the high school students, they were downright gruesome. I will tell you that much. Um, but she needed to construct a scarier setup, and even before, and she needed to do it before she introduced the wolf. So she says, "What can I do to Little Red Riding Hood?" It's only to the triangle to make this picture feel scarier. Well, she said she could tip the triangle so it would, it would make it scarier, perhaps. Or she could make it smaller, like this. She's made it smaller. Okay. The woods now they feel a little bit scarier, don't they? Because she's smaller. And she's there. She here is proportionately larger they're larger in relation to the heron, and she is smaller. Why does it feel why does it feel scarier with Little Red Riding Hood to be smaller? Because we feel more scared when we are little and an attacker is big, because we're less able to overcome the danger or control it physically. When we're little, we're weaker and we can't defend ourselves in a physical fight. Well, she got to thinking and she said, to make it even scarier, I can make her smaller because that would really, you know, diminish her and and make her seem, more overwhelmed by her situation. Also, she said, I can prepare for the fact that she's not going to stay alone in the middle of these trees. I need to make room for the wolf. So she put her even further away and she moved her up. And as she was reflecting on what she was doing, she said it took her time to kind of figure out why. Because, first of all, she looks smaller and she looks further away. Even though the triangle is exactly, and I'm going to go back, if I can. Wait a minute. Go back because I want you to see this. It is. Okay. The triangle is exactly the same size. And she's just moved it up. She looks farther away because the trees have established a sense of what we call perspective, of receding space. And Little Red Riding Hood seems to have moved back through that space just by being placed higher on the page. That's fine. Then she said she realized that when Little Red Riding Hood is more distant from her, that she doesn't identify her with as much and she doesn't sympathize with her so much as before because distance makes the heart grow colder. You take the other aspect of it, not fonder. So she says, she said, I felt less close to her and less attached. And also the woods are proportionately smaller again. But before she wanted to introduce the wood, there was another aspect of the picture that she can work with to make scarier. The trees, how can I make them feel more threatening? She thought, well, I could add more of them. I could to make the woods darker, like a prison surrounding her. She says, I could add some pointed branches, which would make, if I added the pointed branches, it would make this picture seem more threatening, since we are all afraid of pointed objects, aren't we? So she tried both of those, and the woods just didn't feel scary when she did that. Um, And she said when she put the wolf in, it became lost in confusion. So she cleared all of those pieces out and she started again. Now, the heroine is no longer in a forest of vertical, reliable trees, okay? No longer, but in a woods where trees might fall on her at any time. And then you notice something else is happening to Little Red Riding Hood. She is visually now, let's talk about our contest. Look at this. She is visually trapped underneath a pointed arch made by two trees. Now, rationally, we all know that we've seen it, that she is back, far back in the distance, and she's not under the trees at all, is she? But on this plane of picture, that is, when I look at this picture as a flat two-dimensional space, her vertical shape now, look at it, her vertical shape is blocked by the arch. And this makes the situation even scarier for Little Red. So there's two aspects I want to point out here. One, oh, and also that the trees have been tilted towards her, pushing her back to the left-handed side of the page. When you tilt the trees away from her, they seem to be opening a path leading her to the right, okay? 2 points I want to make. Diagonal lines give a feeling of movement. When you have a diagonal line, and let's look at it, that gives you a feeling of movement, okay? As with the leaning trees that seem to be about falling or fell. Shapes that lean toward the protagonist, which is Little Red Riding Hood, feel as though they're blocking or stopping forward progress, whereas shapes leaning away give the impression they're opening up the space. So this shape, as you see it, is leaning away. This one is tilting in its way. Okay, enough of this business. Let's take care of the wolf, okay? You ready for the wolf? Here we go. So she adds the wolf. And here he is, the big bad wolf. What shape makes the wolf? Just 3 long black triangles. Why do these triangles feel so scary? Partly it's because they lean aggressively towards the left. Remember we talked about where the Little Red Riding Hood was going to the right? The wolf's leaning toward the left. And Little Red Riding Hood looks tiny in comparison to this and half hidden. Partly it's because of the context. We see the triangles as the wolf. But I think mostly it feels scary because they're pointy and they're sharp and they're dark and because they're big. And I feel very definitely different when the wolf is made much smaller. It's not, he's scary, but he's not nearly as scary as he was when he was big. Or I feel differently if the wolf was changed, if we made him curvy. He's just a big old dog roaming around, hey, Little Red, come on and take me to your grandmother's and we'll have dinner together, Not scary at all. Or I don't think it's very scary if we changed his color. We made him a paler color. Now, this purple colored wolf is a bit disturbing. I mean, if you met him in the woods, I'm sure he would be a bit disturbing. And she used purple once before for Little Red Riding Hood's mother. So making the wolf purple connects it with the mother. But does it make this wolf look more motherly, or does it feel more evil because of the association? Maybe this would be a more appropriate color if the story was about a ghost wolf, but it's not. It's about a real mean wolf. So certainly the color distinguishes the wolf from the rest of the scene. The picture has 3 separate parts now, made from 3 different colors, and very little cohesion. Very little cohesion. It needs to hang together better. Now, before developing the wolf further, we need to look at it for a moment. It is scary because the menacing shapes could be anything now, even something more scarier than a wolf. When we add the wolf details, that unknown menace becomes more specific and therefore maybe perhaps slightly less scary. But the story requires a wolf, so we have to put one in. So, what makes a wolf so frightening to us? There are elements that we need to concentrate on if we do indeed need to make this wolf frightening. Teeth. Teeth are one scary feature. These are nothing but 7 small, sharp triangles irregularly placed in the wolf's mouth. Imagine how much less scary they would be if they were rounded. They wouldn't be, they would be scary, but they wouldn't be really scary. You need a good dentist. In reality, both the snout and the teeth of the wolf are rounded. They're not honed to a sharp point as in these pictures. However, when we are in a scary situation, we see the scary elements in an exaggerated light. The attacker looks much bigger when we're afraid. The teeth or the weapons look much sharper. Just as when we are we're in love, we tend to see the world through rose-colored glasses. When we want a picture to feel scary, it is more effective to graphically exaggerate the scary aspects of the threat and of its environment than to represent them photographically as possible, because this is the way we feel things look. Okay, what else does the wolf need? He needs an eye. And we gave him an eye. Now look at this eye carefully that we just read. She cut the eye out of purple paper. Since there are 3 colors available in addition to the white, and the new color attracts your attention. Also, she wanted to use all 3 colors plus white in every picture. She made the eye a long diamond or lozenge shape, emphasizing the pointedness of a wolf's real eye, but getting rid, once again, of the curves. But she said, even though she made it that way, she's got her 3 colors, it still didn't look right. Ooh, why is this eye so much scarier? The obvious answer, of course, is it's red. But why is a red eye so much more scarier than a purple eye? Purple is just simply milder, less aggressive in color than red. Part of that reason may be purely psychological, because psychologists have found that people tend to get into more fights in bright red and hot pink rooms, and to tend to eat more in rooms with red walls than they do in rooms with paler colors. And part of the reason may be that we associate red with blood and fire, so that this is a bloody, red, fiery eye rather than associated with flowers or with the evening sky. Maybe it's because we've seen drunken, bloodshot eyes or eyes reflected in a campfire, and those were red. Maybe it's because, in some fairy tales, the eyes of witches are described as being red. Whatever the reason, red eyes are scarier than purple eyes. But something else with this replacement of the purple eye with the red, she saw something that she really wasn't expecting. She immediately associated Little Red Riding with the Riding Hood with the wolf's red eye now, immediately, in a way that she didn't before. They go together. The eye is looking at her. This was a strong association that Molly Bang, as she was writing this book, recognized. Is the strong association is almost solely due to color. She made the eye round but still red, but she still associated it with Little Red Riding Hood in the same way. Now, what if the eye is the same color and shape as Little Red Riding Hood? The wolf looks stupid, you know, or maybe happy. Its glance is no longer pointed at the prey, and it's certainly not as evil looking, is it? The picture feels extremely different, doesn't it, than the other one? Extremely different. And yet, the only thing that's been changed is the shape of the eye. So, a more disconcerting effect to her is that two red triangles are now so alike, and I associate them with each other. She associates those two red triangles with the red triangle with Little Red Riding Hood, that they just disassociate from the rest of the picture. They're no longer meaningful elements. The triangle is no longer a meaningful element. She sees them not so much as Little Red Riding Hood now and the wolf's eye now, but just more as two red triangles that float up and out of the picture. So she returns to the wolf with the pointed eye, and she says, and yet there's one more feature that she can add to make this wolf more frightening: a tongue. This way, this. Now it looks as though Little Red Riding Hood is being drawn right down into the wolf's mouth just by the force of that large red mass. She said that she even associated her even more, uh, Little Red Riding Hood, even more with the tongue than with the eye. So she, and if you look, I think you kind of do, because the tongue is a bigger mass of red, bigger shape, bigger mass. There seems to be some sort of gravitational effect on it here. The larger the mass of color, the more our attention is drawn to it. The larger the mass, the more it's drawn to it. So my attention is attracted more to the wolf than to the trees, partly because the wolf is a larger mass, partly because it breaks through the verticals of the trees, and also to some extent because it is to the far right of the picture. And our eyes tend to go, how? Left to right on a page. But its blackness keeps it hidden in the trees, which much more than when it was purple. So she saw it in a way that she didn't understand before, that when two or more objects in a picture have the same color, we associate them with each other. The meaning and the emotion that we impart to this association depends on the context, but the association is immediate and strong. Red goes with red. Now, there is one more aspect of the picture that can be changed to make it feel even more scarier or. The background. The background can be darkened. And in this third picture, in which Little Red Riding Hood was shown with her mother, purple was used as a soft or a gentle color. It's also gentler here, in that it is less of a stark contrast with the black than the white was. Then why does this picture feel more threatening now? Because in this picture, the purple indicates night, or the approach of night. And night feels scarier to us than day because, well, we see well during the day and we see poorly at night. Darker backgrounds can also imply a storm or overcast weather, neither of which feels as sunny as the day of sunshine. So she said she tried using purple for long parallel shadows, but then that came up from the base of the tree. But she said that didn't work. And she said then she got involved with the branches and how they were out of sight here, and they would be cast on the ground, and the shadow pattern became disconcerting and helpful. And then she said, I just went back to a solid purple. Now that the background is purple, how can we use white as an element? How can we use white? By a positive element. I mean, here as an object, because up to now we've been using white as an element, but it's been in the background. So how is she going to use white as an element? And I love this one. Are you ready? The teeth. These white teeth aren't any scarier than black or red or purple teeth. Quite the contrary. Black teeth dripping with red blood, would have been rather effective here. However, what has happened now is that the teeth are white. They pop out at us more. We notice them more than we did when they were black. And see how powerful white is here, because it shows up strongly on dark backgrounds. White is effective when used with restraint. The first section has shown us how a picture can be built up by element to produce specific feelings in the viewer. This picture was supposed to be scary. This is her picture now that she's built, that we have watched her build. This picture was supposed to be scary because of its context. A hungry wolf. We're talking about context now. A hungry wolf wanted to eat a lone girl in the woods. But the picture was made to feel increasingly scary to the viewer because of what? The color, the shapes, the sizes, and the placement, the spatial relationships, the placement on this pieces of, and it's just construction paper we're working with here, that make up the picture. So, boys and girls, our feelings arise because we see pictures as an extension of the real world. You've been watching Leonardo da Vinci, that wonderful thing on PBS. If you haven't, please watch it. And he knew this. This is something Da Vinci knew. And pictures that affect us strongly use structural principles based on the way that we react in the real world in order to survive. As soon as you understand these principles, you'll understand why pictures have such specific emotional effects. And, my friends, you will understand how pictures work. Amen. All right. We have exactly 10 minutes. And guess what we're going to do? Take a look at this. Who knows? And y'all, you can unmute now because I want some discussion. Okay? Catherine, if you'll do this, okay? I want some discussion on this one. This is a snail, I believe. Matisse did this. Yeah, I got my notes here. I want to make sure that I've got the right one. Oh, here we go. We're going to talk about shape and form in this picture. This is by the snail, and it's by Matisse, and it is absolutely one of the most famous Matisse paintings. It was done when, bless his heart, he was in his bed. He could not get out of bed, and he wanted to create art, and he did. And this became absolutely famous. So tell me this. What do you, just talk about it. What do you see? Do you see the snail?
No, I don't see the snail.
No, I don't understand.
No.
Well, first of all, let's deconstruct it. Let's talk about color. Let's talk about color. What colors did he use in this?
Jewel tones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
Purple,
bright.
red.
Bright.
Bright colors he did. So one of the first things that usually most people notice about this painting is the um, not this one, how about this one, is that it's looks like it's just a collage, okay? They don't see anything about it. But it's had a lasting impact on the art world, and it's considered one of his most iconic works because he is exploring form. Okay, so I want you to look at it and look at the movement. Start looking at the movement. You read from left to right, so start looking at the movement of this and see if you can figure out the movement. And when you start kind of moving your head around, and is there a shape? Can you see any kind of a shape forming in your mind?
Okay, I do.
I do too. I do too.
Yeah, now I do.
All right, now these colors were carefully chosen by Matisse, carefully colored for balance. Do y'all see balance in this color balance?
Yes.
Where? How is
Um,
it balanced?
well,
Look at orange.
I feel it, but I don't know whether I can say.
Take a look at orange. Just have your eyes follow.
Okay. Okay.
All right, follow the orange. Start with the orange first, and we're not going to dwell on it forever. If you'll notice that he has created a framework for us out of one color, correct? Okay. Then, okay, and I can imagine this little fella sitting in bed, figuring out how to take these cut pieces of paper, which we won't go on. All right. Then, if you notice the colors are vibrant, they range from very deep blues, right, to purple, to reds, to greens, and these are not accurate. You just can't get the accuracy that you do with the painting. Okay. But if you see, you can kind of figure out his little feet maybe here, his base. And how does it, when you look at it, there's balance, there's harmony. The larger, darker blocks anchor. They're the ones that look at this. They anchor this peach. The darker ones do. Okay. Right? While the smaller, look at the smaller ones, the smaller, brighter pieces, they draw your eye around the canvas. Now look at that. They draw your eye around the canvas. So that's the snail. That's the first one we're looking at. That was color. Okay. Let's get this one. I love this one. I love it. This is by Grant Wood.
Yeah.
This is by Grant. This
Wood.
is by Grant Wood. You know who
Wood.
Grant? Yeah, you know who Grant is. He is the fella that did the he did the what is it called? The one we saw it. The two people, the pitchfork. I can't think of the name. Help me, Linda.
Oh,
No, it's the American. It's
Yeah,
American Gothic, I think.
American Gothic. American Gothic. All right.
Yeah.
First of all, let's talk about emphasis in this. Look at the emphasis of this. What is the first thing that you notice about this painting?
oh my gosh.
What's the first thing you
The
notice?
tree.
Finger,
Size of the
finger
tree.
The
pointing.
guy in red pointing at the little guy.
But all the fingers are pointing.
Did-
Almost all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
When
look
I-
at the size of the
Yeah,
people.
when I teach,
Mhm.
when I taught this before, the visual literacy, my children love this painting. They
Yeah,
just love
bet.
this. I mean, they have all kinds of ideas. The first thing they notice is this little fella with George Washington's head on it, and that's the
Yeah.
that's the
Yep.
first thing they go to. That the white hair, the profile, immediately. That's George, right? And within a few minutes, you know what the story's about?
Yes.
What's
Yeah.
the story about?
It's him chopping down the cherry tree.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now I want you to take a look at line. Take a look at all the lines in this picture, okay? I want to see if you can figure out something. Have your eye follow the lines. This line, this line, this line.
It's
Where do
another
they all go?
triangle. Yeah.
They all
Go to the poor
even
tree.
even this right here. Who are
Yeah.
they? What are the lines focusing on?
George.
Good old George.
No, on the danger that has been done to the tree.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about shape. Look at the shape in here. What do you see a repetition of shape? What shapes do you see repetitions of?
Curves.
Circles.
Yeah.
Sharp
Right.
edges.
Right. And usually the curve that usually most everybody notice, of course, the curve, the repetition of the circles. There's also, look here, repetition here,
Yeah.
repetition
And
here.
the cherries are
even-
in the curtain as
Yeah,
well as from the
absolutely, yeah.
tree.
Look at, yeah,
Yeah.
all of this. There you go. It's just filled with good stuff, isn't it?
Mm.
Now, light. Let's talk about light. This is another element that we didn't get to, but let's talk about light. What about light? Light adds depth to a painting, okay? From dark clouds above, see the dark clouds up here, okay? To the spotlight and resulting shadows. Look here.
Mhm.
The spotlight coming. See, he is standing in front of a curtain. Okay, you got it. And here's the spotlight coming. So you've got this is just a wonderful thing. So there's light there. The bright, the light blue, the right here, the light shining on dear George, clothes. They stand out in contrast, don't they, to everything else that's around. So Grant's used that light and notice we were talking about white, the teeth of the wolf, when you changed it. What if Grant had made him all blue? Made his
Wouldn't have stood out as much.
no, he and even this right here, he's drawing your eye with a white here to the hatchet, okay?
Mhm.
So the bright and blue and it adds further emphasis to the point of the artwork. To the point of the artwork. Color, what colors did he primarily use?
Ones. One
Plays on
color.
red.
Reds, okay. Reds, yeah, red and green shades, because they're two complementary colors, okay.
Yeah.
They bring those two complementary colors, what do? They bring the picture together.
Mhm.
Bring that picture together. Showcasing another design quality unity. Okay. Space. What about space? How does he use space here?
He puts George in the middle, in the center.
Here he's got the narrator. I call this fella. This is the narrator.
Yeah.
This is the narrator. And remember think back to where did Molly Bang place the scary wolf?
On the right.
On the
He placed
right.
it right, yeah.
Mhm.
And also, he's telling us something. He's pointing something. He's the showman. He's a we get the figure that, he's trying to tell us something here. He tells us that the story is not what?
Not true.
Did George
I don't know.
absolutely cut down a cherry tree? No.
Yeah.
It was Parson Weems, the fellow. This is Parson Weems in the foreground. And I was surprised about how many of my fifth graders, when I did this with them, had not heard that story about George Washington and the cherry tree. And many of the adults, when I showed this to the adults, believe it's true. So there was and here Grant Wood, who died in 1942, and here's what he said about it. And I love this. He says, "When I was a boy, we all learned the story of George Washington and the cherry tree, and we accepted it as the gospel truth. The present, more enlightened younger generation, however, is well aware that this incident never happened, but that it was the invention of Washington's most famous biographer." So this is a good story. Okay, now let's go.
Sandy,
Uh-huh.
can you hear me? Okay, I've just got to tell you my perspective of it because I mean, to me, it says that George Washington, this little tiny upstart from a little tiny place, was cutting down what everyone knew was the greatest country in the world. And here he is shown by the red coat, cutting down a cherry tree and saying, it's going to be my way. I mean, you just think of what he did, being the head of an army that had no chance of winning that war, no chance at all, no money, his very best, closest confidant and friend betrayed him, Benedict Arnold. And yet he stood there and he looked him in the eye. He never backed away. He held that little tiny hatchet as compared to the might of England and their army and their navy. That little hatchet is just what it was. And all he could do is hope for the best, because look at the order and, the might of England behind this red coat. And he was depending on just being audacious. And he lucked out, because the French I don't know why I kind of think of, he doesn't look French, but the French came in and saved him. So I don't know. I just think of the audacity of looking that guy straight in the eye with his little tiny hatchet and saying, I'm betting my life, my fortune, my future that I can cut this thing down.
And he did. And
And
that's
he did.
and that's the reason, even though it is not a true story,
Right.
that his biographer made it up. That's the reason that it's played so well. Your summary is the reason it's played so well in American history. All
I
right.
just have a question.
yeah.
What's the name of this?
Parson Weeds. Hang on.
Yeah, something
The
like that.
Parson Weed one, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right.
What's
Yeah.
it called?
Parson Weed.
Yeah.
Parson Weed is the name of the art.
No.
No, the narrator.
I'll find it in a minute. I'm going to go into this, and I'll come back.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
I'll
no
come back
I
worries.
think, also you think, okay,
All
I'm
right,
so
now
sorry.
This
But
one, okay. This one is
Okay.
by an African American,
It's from Murray Bearden, isn't it?
Jacob Lawrence.
Oh, Jacob Lawrence, yeah.
And what's the strong point about this one? What's the first thing you notice? What's the strong
the
element?
cutting.
What color?
Mhm.
Blue.
Use it. Primary colors.
Yeah.
And this was Jacob Lawrence. All of the colors in this particular one come from three primary colors: red, blue, and yellow.
Mhm.
And you cannot mix any colors to create a primary color. So Lawrence, just as Susan, this guy was making a statement with the rent.
Primary.
Jacob Lawrence is making a really social statement here.
Mhm.
Okay. And he was a social realistic painter. And by the use of these colors, this one is called Builder's Number One, and it was done in 1972. And it depicts he uses deep blues, deep reds, yellows to capture that energy of those workers. And all of them are portrayed in action. Notice the lines. Notice the lines going on here. Everyone is portrayed in actions. It communicates the industrious spirit of the working class. And look who they are, African Americans.
Right.
And if you will look at Jacobs Lawrence work, it is powerful. I mean, powerful.
Especially the Great Migration series
Okay.
that he did.
Yeah. What element do you see in this real quickly? This is Marc Chagall's wonderful I Am the Village.
Oh my
What
gosh.
What element is used over and over in this one? Shape, color, size, line, spatial relationship. All of them are used.
All of it. Yeah.
But he said himself that lines, angles, triangles, squares carried me far away to enchanting horizons. This is
It's a dreamscape.
This is a picture of his village in Russia, okay, before he went to Paris. And he has used lines to connect. It's like a puzzle. He's
Mhm.
used these lines to connect, and he used those lines to connect because he wanted that sense of connection. That was his goal. This was his home, his family, his little village that he was leaving. And these were all, if you look at all of the little things in it, the animals, the people, the village itself, the workers, the woman. I mean, all of these were that connecting element, and he used that. What element do I use that can really pull that and share that connection that I have and that I feel for my community that I will never see again? And he didn't.
Right.
What about this one?
Mm. Mm-mm-mm.
This is Shepherd Boy pointing at Tobias and the angel.
Tobias.
And Tobias and the angel is not in our King James Version Bible, in another one, but it's about.
It's in the Apocrypha.
It is.
Yeah.
What? How does this artist use space? What does he do? How does he use it? You know, there you see the shepherd boy. He's resting on his bucket, right there in your face, isn't he? Pointing. He's using lines. He's using shape. He's using space. Look at this beautiful thing right here. It's
A
almost like
jug.
you're standing right there.
Mhm.
You are standing right there. Tobias and the archangel, he's pointing to Tobias and the archangel Raphael. Tobias is a young Jewish man who was sent off by his blind father to recover the family fortune. And accompanying him on the trek was his dog and a guide, the archangel Raphael in disguise. And though we don't see Raphael's true identity, Tobias doesn't learn it until later. The story concludes with a renewed fortune. And so in the Dutch combined everyday life with religious. That was one of the things they did in the 1600s. But the absolute use of putting this large figure in the program to take up most of the space has just a different quality that if he would have been standing or if he'd been at the right. I mean, he's telling you, he's pointing, and he's probably, Linda, spiritually pointing to other things in that picture as well, you know.
But things beyond your immediate sight. So yeah, there's
Yeah.
something beyond,
Yeah.
beyond the daily struggle for water, blah, blah, blah. But,
Absolutely. Absolutely. What about the color? Let's just look at the color in this picture. Look how he uses, once again, let's talk about white. How, and that's something that all of you can start looking for. And that's one thing that you can look for is how artists use white, whether it's modern, whether it's classical, whether it's, medieval. I mean, they knew that white. And I'm going to show you because here, you're going to notice him because if he's white shirt, but notice here, notice here, notice here. I mean, to draw your eye and also to kind of pull you into the space. Red, and what I love about this one, he's got red, uses red too, but look what he does with the face, how he pulls in the red. I mean, it's just, this is
But
magnificent.
that gold, the use of those golds is just remarkable. And then that sort of reflects back on the angel and blah, blah, blah about what really is illuminated, because even in the angel, there's some illumination there at
Well,
the
and
top of the figure.
yeah,
It's very interesting.
absolutely. And we talked about spatial arrangement. Look how he's arranged everything on this. Just like Molly was arranging her wolf, how she proceeded to arrange that wolf and put that wolf in the perspective. He's drawing you. He is saying, Sandra, I want you, come here. I want to tell you something. I want to tell you something. I want to tell you the importance of belief. I want to tell you the importance of a story. I want to tell you the importance of living a good life, And the other thing is the use of a peasant. And I'm sure with the urn and like the gold urn, there's all kind of symbolical things, which we'll get into it in a later thing.
So
This,
that was oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
okay,
I didn't know you were
okay,
moving on.
yeah,
No,
hang on
it's
to that
okay.
till the end because I've got 5 more minutes. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
This is by Dima. This is a painting of hers. And how did she use space and form? She wanted you, she's pulled you into this picture with the what?
The hands.
Absolutely. That's what she she wanted you to see these hands. I mean, and have you stand back and say, and look at, she has set it against red. Has she used any white?
The nails.
Some.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Skin.
Mm-hmm. What would this pic, I think this is a powerful painting,
It is good.
but would it have been different if she had made the hands smaller or put
Mhm.
something in them? Would you have had the same feeling? I
Mhm.
don't think so.
Yeah.
What if she had made what if she had select, now notice the color. She's primarily got red, she's got blue, of course, the hands here. She's dealing, she's dealing primarily with just several colors. And note the background. Now here is black. This one, of course, is the dress, part of her dress. But she's put it, what if she had made this white, the background white? Would you have had the same feeling?
No.
No, no. Let's look at another's by hers. Get this one. You're gonna see some good stuff. Yeah, it's coming. Look at these pomegranates. I mean, it just looked like you could just reach in and push. But look how she has phased them. How many colors is she using? How many
3.
colors to create this?
Maybe-
This
Well,
three.
no, 4.
Uh-huh.
Maybe
The
more.
colors, the shading, the elements, lines. Look at how she's used the curved, the repetitive, the curved lines of everything. She's brought your eyes, and look where she's placed things, the spatial placing now.
Oh my gosh.
This is another one of hers. This is a great example of the use of lines and movement and how lines can have movement. All right, these are stationary. And what is wonderful about this one that I love, of course, there's a lot of things about this one that's so great, but she has arch. She's got an arch out. Remember how the Molly Bang took the trees and
Mhm.
made them up and pulled them out? She's drawing your eye up that way, the same that Molly drew your eye up by creating that. She's put this strong, firm, but yet soft thing in front to pull you. And all she's done, these are just tiny little lines. They're not birds.
Yeah.
Just like the white thing and the wolf. It wasn't teeth, it was just triangles. But yet, what you're bringing to that picture, you're bringing that information to the picture so you see birds. And you also, she is saying, okay, not only are you seeing these tiny little lines, which I know contextually you're going to, but you're also seeing movement. She has made you see the movement in all this structure as well. This is a beautiful, beautiful piece. It was sold. I looked to see.
Yeah. So Dima was born in Syria and educated in a Christian school. So her both the arches and the minaret there are part of her emotional landscape as well.
Mhm.
What
And-
about this one? What do y'all like about or not like or love? I love this one too.
I love it. You've told her people that she works at the Cummer, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's on her artist statement. So
Okay. Yeah.
so we will introduce her
Mhm.
the brunch on Advent 1. So she
Mhm.
What do
can
y'all,
say
what do y'all notice about this? What's the first thing you notice? Where are your eyes going?
Person in the tunnel.
Yeah. Think Little Red Riding Hood.
Mhm.
Look how she has taken that. Now, if she had taken that shape and made it larger and maybe put it here, you wouldn't have the same effect at all. Look how she's used lines, the curving. And look how she's used the shapes here, the repetition of shapes. She's drawn your eye here by the use of a curved line, guys. That's just a line. But look what they can do with lines. Look what they can do with shapes.
Yeah.
Who knows who did this? Carol, you know who did this.
I know.
who did
Leonardo.
this? Tara?
Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah.
This was done with red chalk. This is just a sketch of the trees that he saw. I love, love, love this. And the reason I pulled it up the back is because I really want all of you to watch that PBS series. You're just going to be blown away. And I think this is in it. I think this is one of the
It
ones
is.
in it.
It is in it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, my friends, I know I ran over time, but hey, my Little Red Riding. The next thing that we will do is to show you the principles of art. I will take a principal and Molly will give you the background and I will give you a picture to look at that balance like I did today. All right, give me some feedback. How did y'all like this?
Loved
I
it.
wanna say some-
Loved it.
Love that. Love the book. Go buy the book.
Yeah, I
I'll
want to
just
say
get the
I'm
something.
getting it for my
Copy lab.
grandchild.
I'm looking
Sandy,
at Carol for that.
Sandy, I want to say something. I want to say this. Sandy,